The door came off its hinges at 3:17 in the morning. The sound alone would paralyze most people for 2 full seconds, maybe 3. That's how long it takes your brain to go from deep sleep to understanding that the crash wasn't a dream, that someone is actually in your house, that you need to move right now. 2 to 3 seconds. He was moving in less than half of one. By the time the intruder's second boot hit the floor, the veteran was already out of bed, low and angled, pistol coming up from the nightstand in a movement he'd rehearsed so many times it was more reflex than thought. The intruder died confused, still trying to orient himself in the darkness, still trying to figure out where his victim was supposed to be. He'd kicked in the wrong door, not the wrong house, the wrong kind of man. Here's what made the difference, and it wasn't reflexes or luck or some kind of supernatural combat instinct. The veteran had mentally fought that exact scenario approximately 400 times. Not because he was paranoid, not because he had PTSD-fueled nightmares about home invasion. He'd rehearsed it for the same reason he'd rehearsed dozens of other scenarios that day. Because his brain had learned years ago that survival belongs to the people who've already made their decisions before the crisis starts. Every night when he positioned that pistol on the nightstand, his mind automatically ran the script. Someone comes through that door, I'm moving here, acquiring the weapon like this, engaging from this angle. 400 repetitions, maybe more. So when it actually happened, he didn't have to think. He just had to recognize the pattern and execute. This is the one daily habit that makes combat veterans almost impossible to surprise, almost impossible to defeat in the kind of chaotic situations where normal people collapse into frozen panic. And listen, it's not about being braver or tougher or more aggressive. It's about speed, decision speed, the time between stimulus and response, between something happening and you doing something about it. Veterans compress that timeline down to almost nothing through a habit so simple it sounds stupid when you first hear it. They never stop running what if, then I would scenarios. Not while driving, not while walking into a restaurant, not while standing in line at the grocery store. Their brain is constantly, obsessively, automatically playing chess with reality, and every single game they play makes them faster when reality finally moves. You've probably sat across from these people at some point. Maybe you worked with one. Maybe you're related to one. Maybe you stood behind one at a coffee shop and noticed something off about the way he positioned himself. Back to the wall, eyes on the door, scanning faces with a speed that doesn't match the casual environment. From the outside, it looks like anxiety, maybe even paranoia. From the inside, it's a continuously running threat assessment algorithm that saved his life before and might need to do it again. These people can't just enjoy a concert. They're calculating exit routes and crowd crush points. They can't sit with their back to a door. They take the same route home but vary it just enough that you could never quite predict the pattern. And if you ask them why, they probably won't be able to explain it in a way that sounds reasonable. Because the habit isn't built on reason, it's built on experience, specifically the kind where being slow meant being dead. The neuroscience here is straightforward. Every time you mentally rehearse a scenario and your response to it, you're strengthening specific neural pathways that connect perception to action. You're literally building physical structures in your brain, growing white matter connections that make certain responses flow faster and more automatically. Imagine you're driving home tonight, and the car 2 lanes over suddenly swerves into your lane. Most people brake and hope. The person who's been running scenarios sees the swerve beginning a half second earlier because they were already watching that car, and they're already accelerating into the gap or braking hard with an exit vector planned before the collision would have happened. Same situation, completely different outcome. That half-second advantage isn't magic. It's pattern recognition running on hardware that's been optimized through repetition. But here's where the origin of this habit matters, because it doesn't start as some tactical mastermind deciding to be ready for everything. It starts as a survival adaptation that gets burned into your brain through experience, specifically the kind where you almost died because you weren't ready. A young Marine on his second patrol in Ramadi approaches a corner the same way he approached 50 other corners that week. Casual, weapon slightly low, attention divided. He's tired, he's hot, he's thinking about the care package his girlfriend sent. There's a man waiting on the other side with an AK-47, and for about 1.5 seconds that feel like they last an hour, that Marine is completely behind the decision curve. His weapon isn't up, his mind isn't focused. He's already dead, and some part of him knows it. He survives because his squad mate, who's been in country longer and learned this lesson the hard way 6 months earlier, reacts first, puts rounds through the wall at chest height on the corner. The insurgent goes down, the young Marine lives. But his brain records that event in permanent marker. You were slow, you were unprepared, you were daydreaming, and you almost died. Your team leader pulled you aside afterward and didn't yell. He just said, every corner, every door, every window, every single one. You already know what could be there, so be ready for it. From that point forward, every single corner is a potential ambush. Every approach gets the full mental rehearsal. Someone could be there, and if they are, weapon comes up like this, I move like this, I engage like this. The repetition isn't forced anymore, it's compulsive. His brain has elevated scenario running to a priority background process because it's already saved his life once. 6 months later, he approaches corners like a different organism. Weapon already positioned, movement already controlled, mental trigger already half pulled. And when there actually is someone waiting, he's engaging before the threat even finishes raising his rifle because he's already fought this fight in his head 500 times. He told himself every morning for the rest of that deployment, I will never be surprised again. And he wasn't. But here's what nobody told him. The habit doesn't turn off when you come home. His first night back stateside sleeping in his childhood bedroom, he woke up at 0:30 to his dad opening the door to check on him. His hand went to the pistol that wasn't there, his body was already moving to cover that didn't exist, and for 3 full seconds his nervous system was in Ramadi while his eyes were seeing Ohio. His father just stood there, confused and a little scared, and quietly closed the door. The Marine lay there in the dark, heart hammering, knowing something fundamental had changed in his wiring and wondering if it ever gets wired back. For most, it doesn't. The habit that kept him alive over there makes him strange over here. That's the trade. So let me give you the practical mechanics right now, because understanding why this works is useless if you never actually build the habit. These are concrete drills you can start today, and each one takes less than 30 seconds but compounds into real capability over time. Drill 1. Your bedroom. Right now, tonight, before you sleep. You're unconscious, it's dark, and something goes wrong. Fire starts in the kitchen, intruder comes through a window, earthquake drops you out of bed. Run the scenario. Eyes closed, imagine waking to smoke or noise or shaking. What's your exact movement? Which side of the bed do you exit? Where's your phone, your flashlight, your weapon if you have one, your shoes so you're not running through broken glass barefoot? What's your primary exit, and what's your backup if that's blocked? Physically walk through it once. Now you've built the map. Every night after, when you get into bed, run it once in your head. 3 seconds. That's all it takes. 400 repetitions later, if it actually happens, you're moving while your brain is still booting up. Drill 2. Your commute. Every single time. You're driving the same route you've driven 1,000 times, which means you're on autopilot, which means you're vulnerable. Start running scenarios. The car ahead of you brake checks you hard. What's your out? Can you swerve right, left, or are you boxed in? Who's in your blind spots right now? If that traffic light ahead goes yellow, are you stopping or accelerating through? And what's your decision rule so you're not deciding in the intersection? Now escalate. Road rage situation. Guy gets out of his car at the stoplight and he's coming at you angry. Are your doors locked? What's your exit? Are you going around him, through him with the vehicle, or backing up? You have 3 seconds before he's at your window. Run it. Now run it again tomorrow. Drill 3. You walk into a restaurant for date night. Your wife's talking about her day and you want to be present, but some part of your brain is running the checklist automatically. Exits. Main entrance behind you. Kitchen straight ahead probably has a back door. Emergency exit near the bathrooms on the left. Threats. Couple in the corner booth. Guy's body language is aggressive, she's crying. Domestic situation could escalate. Man at the bar alone, 3 drinks deep, watching the door. Groups of college kids. Loud but non-threatening. Cover. If shots fired, flip this table, it's solid wood, move her behind it and toward kitchen exit. The whole assessment takes 8 seconds. She never knows you did it. You can be present for her and prepared for reality at the same time. Every public space you enter, every single one. Over time, it becomes so automatic you don't even notice you're doing it, and you've bought yourself decision speed that everyone else in that room doesn't have. Drill 4. Financial and supply chain scenarios. This is beyond violence but uses identical cognitive mechanics. What if your primary income ends tomorrow, you're fired, or the company folds? Then I would activate these stills, tap these networks, reduce expenses in these areas, have runway for this many months. Run it once, make a real plan, now that scenario is handled and you're not starting from zero if it happens. What if supply chains for food or fuel break down for 2 weeks? Then I would need these supplies already staged, these alternative sources identified, this much fuel stored safely. Run the scenario, build the actual preparation, close the loop. Now it's not a fear, it's a handled contingency. Drill 5. You're sitting at the dinner table and your daughter starts choking. Not coughing, choking, no air moving, hands at her throat. You have maybe 60 seconds before brain damage starts. Do you know the Heimlich not theoretically, but physically? Have you practiced the child version in the last year? Can your hands find the right position under stress, or are you going to freeze while she turns blue? Run the scenario right now. See yourself moving, standing her up, positioning your hands, applying pressure upward and inward until the obstruction clears. Now take a Stop the Bleed course or a CPR class in the next 30 days and practice it physically. Because when it actually happens, and statistically it probably will at some point in your life, you're not going to have time to Google it. You're either going to execute what you've rehearsed, or you're going to watch someone you love die while you stand there paralyzed. Run it, practice it, close the loop. The key is micro-observation logging without becoming paranoid. You're not trying to predict every disaster. You're building a habit of noticing what most people ignore. Which neighbors are home during the day? Which houses look abandoned? Which routes flood in heavy rain? Which gas stations have backup generators? Which friends have useful skills in crisis? Every day you notice 2 or 3 small things and they go into your mental database. Over 6 months, you have a comprehensive understanding of your operational environment that becomes invaluable exactly when that environment destabilizes. Because here's what predators don't want you to know. Whether they're criminals looking for victims or opposing fighters looking for targets, they select for weakness. They want distracted, predictable, unaware, slow to respond. Every time you check your environment, vary your patterns, maintain awareness, you're broadcasting competence in ways that threats unconsciously register and avoid. This isn't about aggression, it's about being a hard target, and hard targets get passed over for easier ones. The scenario running habit doesn't just make you faster in crisis, it prevents most crises from selecting you in the first place. But the real test of this habit isn't in combat. It's when the world quietly falls apart around normal people like us. September 2021, supply chains start breaking down hard. Most small business owners saw the news, got worried, and hoped it wouldn't affect them. One guy I know who'd spent 10 years building the scenario running habit saw the first reports in June and immediately ran his contingency. If my suppliers can't deliver for 60 days, then I would need these alternative sources, these inventory buffers, these product substitutions. He didn't wait to see if it would get bad. He acted on the scenario. By August, he'd locked in alternative suppliers, doubled his critical inventory, shifted his product mix toward items he could source domestically. September hits, his competitors are scrambling. Some are folding because they can't deliver. He's operating normally because he'd already solved this problem months earlier. But let me show you the opposite, because this is where it gets real. February 2021, Texas blackout. Temperature drops into the teens. The power grid fails. Millions without heat or water. Most people had never run the scenario. Because Texas doesn't get Arctic cold, the grid had always worked. Why would you prepare for something that never happens? There was a father in suburban Houston. Good man, loved his family, just never built the habit. Power went out on day 1. He had no backup heat source, no stored water, no alternative cooking method. Figured it would come back on in a few hours like it always does. Day 2, his house is 42 degrees inside. His wife is diabetic. Her insulin needs refrigeration but also can't freeze, and he's trying to manage temperature in a cooler with ice he doesn't have. Day 3, pipes burst. No water. Stores are empty. Roads are impassable. He's watching his family suffer in real time and he's paralyzed because he never ran this scenario, never made a plan, and now it's too late to build one from scratch. They survived, barely, but the trauma of his own helplessness broke something in him. He told me later, "I just kept thinking, why didn't I see this coming? Everyone said it could happen, I just never believed it would."